Hello, everybody. I'm Coach Shay, and I'm going to be joined live today with Dr. Emily Kybrid. We are going to be talking about Hashimoto's, thyroid health, all things for prevention and also just to stay on top of our thyroid health, because we know that an optimal thyroid helps us feel better, live better. And so Dr. Emily is just so amazing. She has Hashimoto's herself. So we are going to be talking about that. I'm going to have lots of questions for her, and she's going to be joining me right now. Second. And I've gotten lots of questions centered around the thyroid health of women. And here she comes. Hello.
Hi, what's
Hi,
up, Mama?
Doctor. How are you, Mama?
Good.
Are you doing good?
Yeah.
I saw your stories earlier. Has your day turned around?
Well, I am currently in the car because there's construction in the house.
Yeah.
But it's not like the construction of creation, of building your dream kitchen. It's the construction of like tearing out mold. So
Right. And I know that is really an uncomfortable and not a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
So, but I am just getting ready to introduce you to our followers, and I'm so excited about this conversation. We've had quite the build up, I think, Dr. Emily. We've been anticipating this Friday for a while. And as you know, Team Holly Baxter, we are really just strong about educating women, empowering women, and their nutrition and their fitness. And part of all of that is overall wellness. So this conversation is really near and dear to my heart, as I have been coaching women for the last 8 years. And so many women who have crossed my path in the coaching world have expressed some symptoms with their thyroid. And so I love this because we're going to dig deep. But I first want to introduce you to everybody. Everybody, this is Dr. Emily Kybrid. She has been a chiropractor since 2007. She's a mama. She's a mama bear to Elvis in Brooklyn. And she's the founder of the amazing podcast, Thyroid Strong, which I personally love a lot. I've just listened through all the episodes. I've almost listened to all of them. Just kidding.
Oh, did you listen to Holly's? Because Holly was on there.
Yes.
She was the first 10.
I did. It was right before COVID hit, and she's on there. So if you guys are listening, go follow Thyroid Strong. And she's right before COVID, like almost at the cusp of when it started. But Dr. Emily has been helping women with Hashimoto's and how to work out without the burnout. So that is so important. And you've been featured in a lot of cool magazines, I have to say. I think that's really kind of fun. Vogue, Glamour, Self, Mind, Body, Green, Elle, and Women's Health Magazine, and a couple more, I'm sure, for your expertise in injury prevention and strength training. And before we dig into this conversation, we do want to let you we both want to let you guys know, as you are following along this conversation and after we post it, that we are not your medical doctors. I for sure am not a doctor, and Dr. Emily is not as well. We are just here to have this conversation for educational purposes. And if you do need medical advice, we do encourage you to reach out to your healthcare provider. And we'll just leave it at that. And I can say this at the end of this too. So we just really want that to be said straight out of the gate. Yep. But Dr. Emily, it's so good to have you. And I just want to kick it off, I guess, with talking about Hashimoto's and your personal story. I believe Dr. Gabrielle Lyon was the one that helped you in the very beginning of your journey with this, and also being a new mom.
Oh, yeah.
If I have that correct.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that Hashimoto's experience for the first time in your life?
Yeah. So I had my first kiddo at 35 years old in 2016. And as a new mom, as you know, because you have kids too, everything is so new and you don't know what is normal. So extreme fatigue, like feeling like you were hit by a bus, right? And you're like, well,
Yep.
maybe it's because I'm not sleeping. Difficulty losing baby weight. Like I used to just like weight used to just come off if I just moved my body just a little bit more. But that was not the case after having a kid. Brain fog, so I could start a sentence, but I couldn't finish it. I was losing the outer third of my eyebrow.
Mm-hmm. So
So
like
hair loss was
when you
common.
talk about the third, we're talking like right in here.
Yep,
Yeah.
that little there. And I would say those are the biggest symptoms. Some other symptoms that are not Hashi specific, but that were going on was eczema on my hand. And every time I ate, my tongue would burn.
Wow.
Bloating, cold sensitivities, like those things too. And, you know, 18 months later, my kid is running around and I'm like, this cannot be postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
Like 18 months
Yeah.
is way beyond, right? Some women after birth have postpartum thyroiditis, usually resolves itself within a year. Well, 18 months postpartum, I was like, I feel like death. Like this cannot be how my life is moving forward. So started to kind of walk that line of like, who do I see? I saw my primary care endocrinologist. I actually saw 2 functional medicine doctors, was on protocols, still didn't feel really good, and met Dr. Gabrielle Lyon,
Mm-hmm.
who's still a dear friend today. Our offices used to be like 2 blocks from each other in New York when we were both in New York. And she's like, how come no one's tested more than just your TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone? And I'm so exhausted. I'm like, I don't know. I don't care, but I just need to feel better. And she's like, all right, well, it's so good that we caught this early because you have the potential to go into remission. About 20% of women go into the remission before there's too much destruction of your thyroid gland or too much atrophy, such that you wouldn't need to be on thyroid hormone medication forever. So let's start making the changes of how you're eating, what your workout looks like, and then some root causes. And luckily, probably took a year, 9 months to a year, but went into remission and stayed in remission through a second pregnancy, which
Wow.
a lot of Hashi ladies, like oftentimes pregnancy is a stressor, so antibodies will go up, symptoms will flare up during pregnancy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So you were in remission through your whole entire second pregnancy. And
Yes.
that was based, like, from what I'm understanding, that was based from what you were doing to help and to support your Hashimoto's. That's incredible because pregnancy can put such a strain on all of our major hormones, as we know, and especially like the thyroid and adrenals and cortisol, all of it. So that's amazing, amazing. So would your Hashimoto's be more considered hyper or hypothyroidism? And what is the difference when it comes to the three?
Yeah, so Hashimoto's is hypothyroid. So your TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, the number will start to creep up. Think of hypothyroidism as like every system in your body, every metabolic system slows down. So brain fog, right? Things aren't functioning as quick. Your digestion, a lot of Hashi ladies will have constipation where, to the extreme of like they're going, having a bowel movement like once a week, right? Which not normal. So don't, if that's normal, that's not
So
normal.
major constipation.
Yeah. And so everything is slowing down. Skin will dry out, nails will get brittle, the hair will get brittle, weight loss is slower. So everything slows down. About 90% of women that are hypothyroid have the autoimmune component, which is the presence of thyroid antibodies. So if you're hypothyroid and you don't have antibodies, you're in like the 10%. And the presence of antibodies now is indicating that this is an autoimmune condition.
Right.
So there's kind of three factors that then are like, okay, this is Hashimoto's. It's TSH is creeping up, presence of thyroid antibodies, and then all the symptoms, right? And a lot of women will have the symptoms for years, but their labs aren't showing, aren't correlating with the symptoms necessarily. Like their labs still look okay. So some women are having these symptoms for a decade, and then they have antibodies. So I think it's really important that if you are fatigued, and it's not just like you're getting over the cold that your kid brought home, that it's really lingering, to get checked, right? Thyroid testing is not expensive.
Right.
It is actually quite affordable, and there's really no harm in picking it up early if you can.
Yeah. And with my own personal experience with kind of searching under the hood of my body and my health, here I am, I'm 47 now. And when I started to become more and more aware of hormone testing, which I always say to all my clients, do not guess, you guys need to test.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like one of the things, taking care of yourself as you're aging. You really need to look under the hood. But I didn't really start paying attention to any of my thyroid labs, let alone which ones I needed to ask for, until I was like 40 years old, like just 7 years ago, because really there wasn't a whole lot of talk when, let's say 10 years ago. Do you feel like 10 years ago people were really talking about what labs were the right? Yeah,
No.
I didn't ever hear it. So I had to like dig to find out. And then people would say, well, make sure you get your reverse T and your T3. And I'm like, wait, this is the first I've ever heard about this. So how important, I know we talk about, and again, we are not your medical doctors. I'm going to say this a couple of times through the conversation.
Yeah.
This is just for educational purposes, everybody. But is free T4 and free T3 and reverse T3 as important as the TSH when thinking about Hashimoto's?
So TSH is usually the number one test that will get done, right? And it is testing the hormone release from your pituitary, from your brain. But you want to know what is going on in terms of the thyroid hormones that are actively circulating. So that is going to be free T3, free T4. Reverse T3 usually doesn't get tested. Mm-hmm. It also is a very short window. So it's about it's giving information of a 4-hour window prior to the test. And I would say that most conventional doctors don't test it. I would say some functional medicine doctors don't mm-hmm. test it either, right? They want to see, it gives information of whether you are converting the inactive thyroid hormone mm-hmm. into the active form. So like, do you have a conversion issue? So that's when someone would test reverse T3. So I have friends, functional medicine docs, mm-hmm. DOs and MDs who are strictly functional medicine. They don't test reverse T3 on everyone. There are other doctors who are like, everyone gets reverse T3. So I think it's not only what you're getting, but how are you using that data? And then how does that data inform the decision of medication?
Right.
There's lots of, potential environmental factors that could affect T3, one of them being overtraining, which mm-hmm. is very applicable to this audience, right? Yep. So overtraining can elevate your reverse T3. So I think it's really important when you're working with a provider, the provider's asking why. Like, why am I going to test this? What information is it going to give me? How is it going to change the treatment plan? Because too little information is not helpful, but sometimes too much information is also not mm-hmm. helpful, because it's like, well, where do you start?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And how is Hashimoto's, how does it trigger the autoimmune part of this condition? And do you think genetics plays a part in it, gut health? I know, I kind of know your answer already, but let's just talk about the autoimmune condition of it, gut health, stress. And I love that conversation that I think you and I really see eye to eye when it comes to the stress bit with women. And I really want us to talk about that in a minute. But what do you think about the autoimmune part of this condition?
Yeah, so I think from a more conventional perspective, it's, you have the genetics, your mom has a thyroid condition, your sister, your aunt, you have it, it's been triggered, here's some medication. I've heard some doctors say, hey, go gluten-free, which is, a mm-hmm. great start. And then that's it. So there's two other pieces. This was discovered from Dr. Alessio, that leaky gut mm-hmm. or intestinal hyperpermeability is a second piece that is very important to address. Because if there are viruses, bacteria, big chunks of food, foreign things passing through the gut lining into the bloodstream. Now your body has foreign material in the bloodstream and it's attacking, right? Because it sees it as a foreign invader.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's this kind of chronic low-grade inflammation because your body is on the attack. So the second piece, other than genetics, would be leaky gut or intestinal hyperpermeability. And then the third piece is stress. And stress can come in the form of a death, a loss, a divorce, but it can also come in the form of environmental load.
Yeah.
So mold, microtoxins, parasites, heavy metals, pesticides.
How are you protecting yourself right now?
lots of glutathione and that kind of support.
I don't know if anyone's just jumping on here. Dr. Emily is you're in a rental space right now because your home is being built or something like that, right? And she is finding mold, and this is like the worst thing. For like sirens are going off in your head. I know for you.
Yeah,
it's not healthy for anyone.
It's not healthy for anyone, but some people have a genetic snip that makes them more susceptible, and everyone has different detox pathway capacity, and mine is low. I'm not a good detoxifier. So stress is the other one. And so if you can dial down potential leaky gut symptoms, and whether it's environmental load or emotional stress, you could dial down your physical symptoms. Feel really good.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people here that are hopping on this call and also that will, read this or listen to this after we post it, is that we know that a lot of stress can trigger autoimmune conditions. I mean, you name one and you look it up, and medically speaking and clinically speaking, stress will be part of the thing that can trigger it, And so I listened to one of your podcasts. I don't know which episode it was, but I was really into it because of your response to stress. This is not just environmental stress, but you were talking more about mental, emotional stress, like daily stress. And, working with women, I'm working with women that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, stress. And even I was talking to you about my thyroid labs, and, I was giving you a little backstory about some anxiety stuff and panic disorder in my own life after having our third child at 44. And, I was like, there's no way we can avoid our stressors in life. There just isn't. And what I loved when I heard you say, we have to lean into them. We can't avoid them. We really need to go into them, face them, and kind of like move through. Do you want to say anything more about that or encourage us with that?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of messaging around de-stress, don't stress, avoid stress. And I think it's a little bit of a weird messaging because it's literally something that we'll encounter in our day. And so I think, how can we use stress to our advantage?
Yeah.
How can we lean into it? And I find that when we're in that phase of rumination and we're not taking action, that is when we get into this like chronic stress cycle of like thinking about something, versus even if you take a step forward and maybe it's not a step in the right direction, right? Because every step we're going to take is not the right step.
True.
But at least it's a step and it moves us forward. And I kind of stumbled upon this so I used to do a lot of yoga, and I would fly all over the world, like Thailand, Costa Rica, to go on these yoga retreats. And the whole yoga practice, the physical practice, is to prepare you for meditation. And I noticed within myself, and also a lot of the yogis that I was practicing with, when they came upon a stressful moment, whether it's a difficult conversation, having to move, whatever, it could be remediating mold, the desire and the trained habit was to go, can I get to my meditation cushion? Like I couldn't get there quick enough, but that was the desire, was I wanted to like shut out the world and go meditate. And I was like, that's weird, because that's almost a disassociation versus really stepping into it. And so I found, through kind of changing the physical practice of doing yoga, to doing a little more, to doing basically more strength training, that it was just empowering me to be able to lean into that stress. And I heard Alex Hormozy say this. He's like, you put off having a difficult conversation. Maybe
Yeah.
it's with an employee or whatever. It could be your husband or your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have that conversation, and it gives you so much courage that
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, I can't. Who else can I have a difficult conversation with? Like, light him up. Let's go.
Like, bring it on.
Yeah. And so I heard him say that. I was like, oh yeah. And he like lifts a ton of weights.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But I think the avoidance of stress is only going to push us into that rumination
I
versus
agree.
let's lean into it. Let's use it to our advantage. So I'll give you a personal example. Like this morning, I couldn't find my car keys. Normally we bike the kids to school, but we're late. And now the kids are really late. And the whole house is like torn up. And like my spot where I would put
Oh,
my keys is no longer the spot. So I'm like running around the house trying to find my keys.
I've been
And I can
there.
feel like the pressure cooker. And of course, no one else is helping me. Like my
Of
kids are
course
like
not.
playing soccer. And I could like watch myself get really angry, and I was like really boiling, like blood was boiling. And I just reminded myself, like, I've literally been here before. I've
Yeah.
done this before. I've been in remediation before. I've watched myself get to the other side. I've watched myself heal. I've watched myself
Mm-hmm.
heal my family. Like, I've done this before. Like, I'm stronger than this blood boiling
Mm-hmm.
feeling. And if I were to yell, like, who does it benefit? It doesn't benefit anyone. So
Mm-hmm.
I just had that moment because I like had like a mad mommy moment. And I think if I had sat in it, it would have stressed me the rest of the day. But,
Yeah.
I kind of leaned into that strength.
Yeah.
So,
And you are not alone. I mean, when you're juggling multiple kids, even if you only have one child, I mean,
yes,
you can't,
yes,
you don't even have to have a husband. You don't have to have a partner. It could just be you and a dog. Like if you are taking care of any other
yeah,
thing to help like keep them alive. You don't even have to have a kid. You can have a cat or dog or whatever. You know, you are going to face like major interruptions, major hiccups, major blowups that you're just going, like you said, you could feel that you'd been there before. You were going to blow the gasket, and you were like, okay, I've been there. All right, okay, what are our decisions now here? Am I going to just go through it?
yeah.
And something I always think about too. Just on, we'll move on after this little thing. If you want to say anything more, that'd be great too. But with stress, I know today we are talking so much about self-care, and
Mm,
we are stressed on being stress-free. We're taking on all of these anti-stress hygiene tools and tips like on a daily basis, and so we're actually kind of like anxious about not being anxious, be stressed out by not being stressed out. So I think it's really important, like when we're talking about I talk a lot with women about their hormonal health, and the thyroid health is right. It's all together. And so when one thing might be unbalanced, our stress load is going to go higher. Our stress response is going to suffer a little bit because we're not feeling our best. We're not feeling our optimal self. And so, just realizing that there are ways to get under the hood of our life and also to repair those things. And I love this conversation because I see that as part of this. Like, this is a conversation that can help us repair when we're feeling fatigue, brain fog. Like, there is a reason why. And I would like to touch on something before I ask you another question is, I was just talking to a friend, a dear friend of mine, and I told her about this conversation coming up. And I've been tracking with her for a while now about her health. And I said, has anybody ever mentioned maybe Hashimoto's? And I wasn't trying to be Dr. Google or Dr. Friend. I've walked with this friend for a while. It's not like I couldn't ask. And she goes, well, not really. And she said, well, let me pull out my labs and show you. And she showed me her labs, and I'm like, and they say that your thyroid is okay. And I said, you need to share with them your symptoms. And I think that's something that for everybody to realize, again, I'm not your medical doctor, whatnot, but I have just learned so much about my own health journey, is that even if you are in the range of these test results, and if you are still experiencing something, your experience and your symptoms matter, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people getting dismissed. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, like, no one has to live in your body. No one gets to live in your body. Only you can
Yeah.
advocate for you, right? So, like, if you want to feel better, no one's going to fight for you except you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big, I think that's really important for, especially for women who are like, I don't know, I don't really feel heard.
Yeah.
One of the things about stress, so we can show up in 3 ways. And I thought about this morning. So we can go into fight or flight when we are stressed, right? So we're like ready to fight, or we're ready to run away, or we're ready to freeze,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's one
Yeah.
response. I am historically a very good freezer.
I'm a
But
flight
you're
person.
a flight. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a flight.
The second way we can show up is we can tend and
Mm-hmm.
befriend. So women do this a lot. We like call our girlfriends. We're like, oh my God, guess what happened, right? But sometimes it can continue. It's like you're continuing the story.
Yeah.
So you're like, the cycle of stress is continuing. And then the third way is we can show up with courage,
Mm-hmm.
which is really that leaning into stress. So when I do get stressed, I remind myself that, like, I get a
Yeah.
choice. I can, right, fight, flight, freeze. I can go call a girlfriend, and while I'd love to do that, probably not the healthiest option.
Probably not the
And
healthiest.
or I can show up with courage. And
Mm-hmm.
then I ask myself, okay, in this situation, because stressors look different, how can I, like, what does courage look like in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I remind myself.
That's awesome.
Um, and then, oh, there was something else, but I forgot, but it will come back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And I think it's a really good tool because I watch my kid in his school, and they teach the kids to take a moment,
mm-hmm.
take a pause, to take a breath, which is very cool. I really like it. But I want them to also teach the kids to show up with courage.
Yeah, I think that's so good. It's like, don't just put a breath in there.
Yeah, like what happens after the pause?
Yeah, there still has to be an action, and I think that that's what you're saying, that the de-stressor is important, but then it's what you do once you are centered, and you need to move on. I think that that's important. I take off. I'm like, stress to me is flight mode.
Yeah.
So that is what I have to work on.
Yeah.
For sure. um, I'm really interested in the working out and the strength side of uh, yourself with Hashimoto's, and working with other women that are dealing with this condition, and why is it difficult and challenging?
Yeah. So the two biggest struggles are difficulty losing weight and then fatigue. So, and I think a lot of women are kind of on opposite ends of a spectrum with Hashimoto's. So one end is, the woman who walks maybe 2,000 steps a day. They don't know where to start with their workout. They flare up really easily if they just push themselves just a little too much. And maybe they've tried workouts in the past, but just like, like a little deconditioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other end is the woman who is hitting the gym hard 6 days a week, probably under eating. That
Mm-hmm.
adds a stressor to the body, and is burning the candle at both ends. Maybe they're a little type A. And those are two very different people who move their bodies very differently, but they have the same condition and they have the same goals,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, I want more energy, I want to lose weight. So I think there are ways to program rest breaks properly,
Mm-hmm.
program the starting load, and then also to program like reps and sets, such that you could help someone who is only walking 2,000 steps a day work up to a place where they can work out consistently, maybe 3 days a week, 4 days, and be successful. And then I
Right.
think you can do the same thing and take the woman who's like CrossFit, woo, 6 days a week, right? Not to poo-poo CrossFit, but
No,
no, at all.
this is for the woman, y'all, that has the extreme
Yeah,
fatigue. Like, I really doubt this woman is even able to do CrossFit because, I mean, I have worked with women that have had hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, and there is no way that you could ask them to show up to a CrossFit class. It's not even in their vocabulary because their body will not even allow it. Am I right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe historically they were a CrossFitter and they've
Right,
like burned
right.
the candles
Hmm.
at both ends to the point where they're like, I just can't anymore. And so, yeah, so
Yeah.
programming for that kind of woman such that they are recovering properly um, between their sets. They're not doing a high rep bar
Yeah.
class X.
Uh,
No,
I
like
I think
they
in my
have
experience they are
a program.
doing more like strength. Am I right?
Yeah,
Like lower reps and lower sets, like, and not necessarily to failure or anything like that. But it's because the fatigue part of it has to be so protected, or else you're like you're saying there's going to be major burnout.
right. And I think the other piece to bring in that's very applicable to your audience is muscle is very important. Being hypothyroid, it's harder to keep muscle on the bone, right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
every other metabolic process slows down, so does muscle maintenance and keeping muscle on the bone. So if we only have so much energy and we want to be efficient and effective,
Mm-hmm.
let's make that time efficiency around maintaining our muscle mass versus, and there's always a time and place for like a yoga or something that is more calming, but I think sometimes people default into that too much, or that's too much of a common recommendation is like, take it
Mm-hmm.
easy, go for a walk, do some chair
Yeah.
stretches. And I'm like, that's great. I love
Yeah.
that, but maybe like one day of the week,
Yeah.
not,
Not
not,
5 days. Yeah.
yeah. So you need
Because you
some
still,
stimulus.
yeah, you still need to stimulate your muscles.
Yeah.
You still need growth. And so we know to stimulate the muscles and to have growth, diet and fitness. Like, you have to do the combination of those two. And with that, do you see, I guess this will bring me into your clinical observation that you've had. I mean, you also were part of urban, like you started Urban
Yeah.
Wellness, right? Clinic.
Yep.
And then, so you've been in this for since 2007.
Yep.
So what is your clinical observation that you've made with working with women with just autoimmune conditions? Because I'm sure you're not just seeing Hashimoto's, but
Yep.
various autoimmune conditions through the lens of functional movement and strength.
Yeah. I mean, other autoimmune conditions that I've seen, rheumatoid arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
And when, for women who don't know this, when you are diagnosed with one autoimmune condition, the possibility of getting diagnosed with the second and third goes up very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so, and this was part of like Gabrielle and I, Dr. Lyon, co-treating clients. So she was doing a lot of the functional medicine, the internal work. And then she's like, hey, they have joint pain, muscle aches, they need muscle. Can
Mm-hmm.
you go do that piece for me? And so seeing a lot of clients in person, autoimmune clients. And I noticed, and there is no research, I check PubMed every single week for this. Is there any research tying the quality of the tissue of joint laxity, joint hypermobility to an autoimmune condition? Because I was doing a Baton score, which is a
Mm-hmm.
physical therapy orthopedic test, checking for certain joints, what's moving too much and what's not moving enough. And I would say probably like 80% of the women I was seeing were showing signs of hypermobility. So knees were hyperextending. You put them in a plank or top of the push-up and their elbows are hyperextended.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would check their thumb, and then their pinky, and then feet together, bend forward, touch the floor, knees straight. They can like palm the floor, right? Like almost too much length in their hamstrings. But it's not from a biomechanical lengthening, right? They're not like doing yoga every day. It's literally like they don't have the connective tissue integrity to stabilize the joints. And all the women were having joint pain and muscle aches. and they all wanted to be adjusted and get massaged. And I was like,
And
well,
this is common. This is so
yeah,
common with autoimmune disorders, like all kinds of conditions.
yeah. So, but it's not to the extent of like an Earler Danlos,
Hmm.
right? But there are some there are some overlap symptoms of like POTS, where like you
Yeah.
get up too quickly, low blood pressure, not
Hmm.
having the integrity of the venous structure to push the blood back to the upper body. And so someone gets up really quick, their veins can't keep up with
Yeah.
them because the veins doesn't have the structural integrity. So anyway, so all these women were like, I want chiropractic and massage, and you're a chiropractor. And I was like, yes, I am. But I also do rehab and strength. And what you need is strength.
Yeah.
So let's focus. Let's build you a strength program. Yes, we're going to do some soft tissue on some certain spots that are tight, but let's build a strength program and get you strong and start to rein in those joints that feel hypermobile. And usually the first 10 to 14 days, these women feel very tight because they're not used to
Right.
their joints stabilizing. But then after that, they were like, wow, this is amazing. And sometimes they would like go back to a yoga class every now and again, and they would feel way worse. And they're like, I am going to stay on the strength train because it
Yeah.
makes my body feel so much better. The other thing too is like contracting your muscle helps with turnover of your thyroid
Hmm.
hormones. So
Yeah.
you can literally physically do something and be turning over from T4 to T3 in your muscle tissue. So
I love that. I love that connection. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. So all these women were starting to feel better. They were getting stronger. They were physically getting stronger without feeling fatigued. They were having more energy
Hmm.
because there were more muscle tissue, more mitochondria. Like it was
Hmm.
only good. So I think sometimes we as women with autoimmune conditions are like, take it easy, don't too much. And I think there's a
Hmm.
time and place,
Hmm.
right? But I also think that we need to push our potential, not like we're burning the candle at both ends, but like, let's put on some muscle, let's recover properly. Like, we're not delicate flowers, we just have an autoimmune condition, but I'm still like a human being
Hmm.
that just happens to have an autoimmune condition.
Yes, for the many women that I've worked with that have had different autoimmune conditions, I will honestly just keep them like starting off at 15 minutes to 20-minute sort of strength training.
Yeah,
Like it is like too overwhelming to give them a program that's 45
yeah,
to 60 minutes long.
yeah,
And it's just enough stimulant to help their body just kind of, like you said, once they started doing the strength, then their joints didn't hurt as much. All of that is the muscle becoming active again. And I think that I've seen that as well with the clients that I've worked with, that it's helped phenomenally, but starting small, not
yeah,
starting trying to, run that marathon, but just think about these short distant runs to get you to feeling that you can go longer. And
100%.
and
Yes.
I had a couple questions come in, just about the nutrition side of things. And we know that inflammation can really spark a lot of things in our body. And there might have been a time and place. There's a time in my life where I could have eaten all the inflammatory foods and never even felt, I never felt it, never ever felt it.
Yeah.
But the older that I have gotten, the more of the inflammatory foods that I even put inside of my body, I do feel the difference. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience. At 30, I didn't. At 47, hell yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And so a question came in about, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. Um, she really wanted to know that her thyroid, she has hypothyroidism. She hasn't been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, but she just does not feel good at all. And she's wondering any diet recommendations that you might have. This would
Yeah.
be a good talk.
Yeah. So obviously diet is bio individual. Also, just to your point of like when you ate when you were 30, like I was like 5-star or 4-star Michelin star restaurant, like I'm there. I don't do that anymore. I was like a huge foodie in New York City, but maybe we did have symptoms and it was like the slightest little bloat, but we didn't think it was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like a little brain fog, but it wasn't enough to like take us down. So foods, I'm gonna say, I mean, this woman is hypothyroid. She's in the 10% that doesn't have presence of thyroid antibodies. Gluten, there is definitely data,
Mm-hmm.
and this is more with the presence of antibodies that going gluten-free can change not only TSH but thyroid antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
And the study was women who went gluten-free for a year. So that would be one thing.
Everybody get uncomfortable. Talking about nutrition, I'll just say it. Like
Yeah.
talking about nutrition is like talking about politics and religion. And I don't coach, women to exclude or eliminate any sort of food group. But if I do have a client that's like, I am not feeling well. Can we, Shay, what do you think? Should I eliminate something? I'll say, well, it won't hurt. Like, it's never going to hurt you. It's not saying you have a gluten intolerance, but get off gluten, see if something doesn't clear up for you. Don't go balls to the wall and eliminate everything.
Right.
But if you think it might be gluten, there is nothing wrong with playing around with that, and like you said, it's very specific to a person. And one thing might clear up for you if you avoid it, and it won't do the same for somebody else. But yeah, I just wanted to state that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think the other thing too is to prioritize protein. Mm-hmm. So a lot of women with Hashimoto's can also have some insulin resistance. So really prioritizing protein. I'm a big like protein veg. I eat my protein first, then my veg personally. Yeah. And then I think food is step one, and it is one dial mover that is within our control because we have to do it every day. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will adjust their food or play with different things and they don't feel better. But I think the thing is after you've made some modifications with how you're eating, the next step is to dive deeper, is to look at what does your gut health look like? Are there any environmental stressors affecting you? So I think sometimes people get frustrated because they're like, oh, I took my thyroid meds, I went gluten-free, but I feel the same. And that's like step one on like a much potential longer journey, that there's so many other things you can do. There are other foods that would be considered kind of quote unquote inflammatory, like corn, soy, dairy. Mm-hmm. But again, it's bio-individual. So you have to play with it. And I will have clients play, they'll do like 6 weeks of an elimination. And the goal is not to eliminate forever. Mm-hmm. The goal is to then reintroduce one thing for 3 days. And then reintroduce one thing the next 3 days and just see how your body reacts. Versus a food sensitivity test that could not be, most are not very accurate. And it's something that you can do within your control.
Yeah, and it really is. I was even talking to a doctor 2 weeks ago about hormones, and there is just so many tests out there, for one thing. Everywhere you look at, like you're seeing a commercial or an ad for the best cortisol test, the best, hormone balance test, gluten-free, becoming, food sensitivity test. It's very loud out there. It's very, very loud. So I really like your approach where, like take it out for just a little bit, avoid that one thing. Don't try to, overcomplicate it with avoiding all kinds of things. And it's so important to reintroduce things. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you work on something, like let's say you have an underlying something, whether it's like SIBO or H. pylori or some bacterial overgrowth, fungal overgrowth, you could address that and then reintroduce that thing, like maybe it was gluten, we'll just say hypothetical, down the road, and you could tolerate it. Yeah. So just because you can't tolerate it now doesn't mean it's not forever.
Right. And y'all, if you have any questions for Dr. Emily, now would be the time to ask. And I see several people have said everything they're saying is me. So hopefully, Jackie, you have felt encouraged and supported in this conversation. And Jackie, if you have anything to ask, you can ask. And I'm just going to go through, sometimes I miss questions and I don't want to. So I'm going to kind of skim through real quick. And right now, Dr. Emily, can you share with us what you have going on in your life as far as helping women and, what's exciting happening with everything in your world?
Yeah, today was the last day of a 5-day challenge, and it was just 5 workouts and rehab videos and like one lifestyle tip for each
Mm-hmm.
day. So that just wrapped. Um, and anyone can access Thyroid Strong, which is my workout
Yeah.
program, anytime. I also do one-on-one work. And um, because I shared this mold story, I got like hundreds of DMs. So I was like,
I
oh, I should
bet
do like a mold masterclass. So
you
I'm gonna probably put it
really
together
should.
in the next week or two. Um,
Mold
so
is mold is an incredibly strong enemy when it comes to highly sensitive people.
yeah,
And I have a lot of people in my life that are incredibly can be really sick because of mold. So it is a big topic. I bet you would have quite the team of people joining that masterclass
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So that will probably be in the works. Yeah, yeah.
Well, can you share with us maybe a few things that really excite you? Maybe something that you haven't said out loud. Maybe something that you're passionate about. Just something that where we can just be enlightened by your personality, maybe, and like your vision for life. I love
Oh,
this question because I feel like we are these people in these boxes and we don't get to know like the things that we are the most passionate about and stuff like that. So
yeah. That's such a funny
I got,
question because I'm
yeah,
always like,
in the box.
yeah. I mean, I'm a Capricorn, so I'm like a workhorse. I'm always like work, 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 work.
Well, are you
Kind of
going to
my
play anytime soon?
yeah. I mean, my version of play is like I just went to a dry needling course and learned a
Ah,
new skill,
that's
and
awesome.
I'm like, excited to implement it. I haven't seen clients one-on-one in a long time, and I from being in New York and now moving to Boulder, and I didn't want to start another brick and mortar, but I
Mm-hmm.
did want to, see my clients like 18 hours a week in person. I think it keeps practitioners fresh. And I had looked at a couple spaces and I was like, I don't want to do solo practice. I love working in a team. And so there's a place in Boulder called Revo PT. It's all physical therapists and athletic trainers. And I approached them.
That's
I was like,
awesome.
so what do you think about bringing on a chiropractor that also treats women?
That's awesome.
And we've been having a conversation for a year, and I just started last week. And
That's
it's really,
amazing.
yeah, it's
Congrats.
cool. It's part-time. It's like 18 hours a week, but
Mm-hmm.
it's cool to be in community because I feel like my time in Boulder so far has been in my house doing online stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in community, there's a lot of endurance athletes here, which is different than what I'm used to. But it's cool to be in community where everyone gets on the gym floor. So if you think about, oh, I'm going to go see my chiropractor, most people think of getting horizontal on a table. That is part of it, but then you also get on the gym floor and train to integrate those patterns of whatever injuries coming up. So that's kind of
Wow.
new. I'm starting to help women just from a one-on-one aspect, more root cause of like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you've done the medication, we've changed it, like you've done changes in diet, you're still struggling. One woman I was working with, I just had a call with her yesterday, hasn't been feeling good. And I just go, hey, are there any signs of these things? And I was basically talking about water damage in her house, like visible
Mm-hmm.
signs. And so I go around your house and go take some photos and send them to me. And there's like a crack in the wall and nail pops and
Oh,
like
yeah.
visible mold above her shower, not from like just the shower. And
And now she's ruminate, or what do you call it when you get it out of your house?
yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh my God, this whole time, because when she takes thyroid medication, she gets very anxious.
Oh,
Like all of her symptoms get worse, which is weird.
yeah.
So I was like, this is this like let's hunt. So she's like, so now we're taking the steps to like get a mold inspector in,
Hmm.
like really investigate that piece because she's thinking, oh, my symptoms weren't worse just from changing my thyroid medication. It's also when the roof leaked down this bathroom
Hmm.
wall. So I think that kind of stuff is very powerful because it takes time to explore that. It takes like,
Hmm.
it doesn't take a 5-minute doctor's visit.
No,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't. And it also takes some money to fix your house.
Yeah, that too. So,
You have to have
yeah.
lots of resources for this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really
But that's
excited for,
amazing.
yeah, I'm really excited for ski season.
Hmm.
It's like every weekend we go skiing.
I love it.
And I just, one of my mentors way back in the day, he signs his email with like, stay curious, Chris. And I think that quality of staying curious. So I've been in practice since 2007. What is that, like 16 years
Hmm.
of seeing bodies, putting my hands on bodies, evolving how I work with people. And I'm always like, I want to learn went to a dry needling course.
Hmm.
There's certain interesting movement techniques that I'm like, no one else does that kind of rotational focus of rehab. Everyone's like a sagittal plane focus. So I'm like, I want to go check that out. And I think that curiosity, like life will never get boring, right?
Yeah,
So, and then
I love it.
like my kid's soccer, that's like
Yeah,
what I do after his
I
soccer.
mean, it's like it's your other identity. It's
Yeah.
your whole other life. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we feel too. Well, I love that. Just stay curious. I think that's a great note to end on. And if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, how do we do that?
Right here
Right here
on
on
the
the
gram.
gram. It's Thyroid Strong,
Yep.
and definitely look up the podcast. You can listen to Holly's pod show. I think it was Dr. Gabrielle that was it she that interviewed Holly?
So at the time when I
It
first started the
sounded just
podcast,
like her. I was like, it's got to
yeah,
be Dr. Ryan
we
because
were
it
we were
doesn't
both
sound like
on there.
you.
We were
Yeah.
when it first started, it was called Muscle Medicine,
Yes.
and we were doing it together. And then I decided to rebrand the podcast to support the course because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like so much to remember, different podcast name and everything.
Yeah.
And then Gabrielle started her own Dr. Gabrielle Lyon show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Gabrielle and I both interviewing Holly.
Yeah.
But
I remember. But
Gabrielle knew Holly longer, so she was like asking more of the questions.
yeah. Well, I loved it. So everybody go listen to that episode, listen to the other episodes, Thyroid Strong. And again, we are not your medical doctors. I just came on for the last hour to be educational and empowering. It looks like one of your patients came on here just a minute ago and said that she's been working with you one-on-one and she is so knowledgeable and you're an amazing person. So
Oh,
I
you.
think that's amazing. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I've continued to look forward to our relationship through the gram and through what our forces are doing. And if any of y'all are interested in one-on-one coaching or looking for a team of women to walk you through with your nutrition and your fitness, performance related goals, optimal health, wellness, Team Holly Baxter is here. We love to bring on people like Dr. Emily because of her expertise. And, joining forces with other women, I think is the most amazing thing for me. And I think that there's so much for me to learn by getting to know you, but also all of our female followers that are following along on this box, this gram, like we really want to empower you. We want to introduce you to other people that want the same, and so that's why bringing on knowledge like Dr. Emily's is so important to us. So we hope you have a great, great weekend. And Dr. Emily, I'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah.
And thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.